Welcome to Big Brother Basics, where we break down the basics of Canada 3. My name is Jacob Harple, and with me is the always fantastic, always fabulous Keith Guerrero. How are you doing tonight, Keith?
Doing great, and that was the best intro yet. Thank you so much for having me.
That was my Pilar impression. Sorry.
Sure. Blame it on the Pilar, but she still won that HOH. Ooh, girl, work.
I was actually pretty proud. I think on a competition uh level, I think Pilar is actually really, really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially one that required thought, and because we were not sure what the brain activities happened in Pilar, but she was able to eliminate 4 different people. It was pretty impressive that she actually got a lot of questions right.
Oh yeah, she definitely worked in this HOH. But we're going ahead of ourselves. It's time to break down the nomination episode from tonight. Pretty interesting episode. Really interesting to see the dynamics of the house, kind of the aftermath of the eviction. I think that was the thing I was really looking for. After Pilar won, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I thought we kind of saw, we knew where it was going nomination wise. Were you surprised by Pilar's nominations?
By the nominations, no. With Pilar winning, yes.
Yeah.
Because this was just a massive shift in momentum. But then a lot of people that helped with that shift really wanted the momentum to go back the other way. So I don't know. I think that was an interesting call. I'm not sure if I agree with it yet. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting that Pilar won HOH.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested to talk about some of the players' strategies, specifically the players that were part of that big move, and what their strategy going into this next week was. But we'll kind of get to that in a second. The first thing I kind of want to talk about is just the overall reaction of the vote. It was really, really cool to see everyone's just faces, just like their jaws drop. Zach totally pissing his pants. I'm really excited to see what the different relationships are now, specifically between Zach and Sarah and Brittany. What did you think of that conversation that they had in the storage room?
Oh my gosh, that was really, really awesome because Sarah basically owned Zach throughout that entire conversation. And truth is a valuable source of information, so I wouldn't just lash it out, give it out like Sarah did. But it was so good to see Zach fumble and fall because he needed that humility check. He thought he was running the game. He thought Sarah and Brittany had no minds of their own, and then Sarah just called it out for what it is. She was just like, Jordan and you were manipulating me, so it would make sense for me to vote out the person that's manipulating me. And Zach was like, you have a brain. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy to me.
What do I do?
What do I do? I thought everybody just we're mannequins and we're just going to vote for me to win at the end. So the fact that Sarah's like, yeah, this isn't going to affect our games necessarily because we didn't draw the lines in the sand. You drew the line in the sand. I love when she flipped it on Zach and was like, this is your fault. You left your boy on the block. And we have agency. We're going to vote however we want to vote. And we disagreed with who you wanted to leave this week. So that's why Godfrey stayed and JP went.
Yeah.
She was just so matter of fact, so big brother. It was really, really good. And I was proud of Sarah for that conversation.
I was proud of it too. And I think she handled it well. She definitely stood her ground. And I think the points that she made were very valuable, kind of putting it back on Zach, like you just said, you guys kept us in the dark. You were lying to us. You were manipulating these things and we didn't like it. So we did something about it. And I think if anything, that should give Sarah and Brittany more respect. But in this house, you're usually targeted for that instead of being respected. So we'll see.
We could also see the approach of somebody else because Cindy, she had a completely different approach than what Sarah did. Sarah owned the fact that she voted out JP, made this statement and was like, you kept me in the dark. This is why I flipped it. It makes sense for my game. Cindy tried to convince everybody that she was the 5th vote that kept JP. What did you think about Cindy's move for doing that?
I thought it was dumb. Pretty much for what you just said. I think when you make a move like this, I think you just have to own up to it. You're kind of screwing over the people that you were voting with by trying to hide your own vote. And I don't think something like that was going to stay hidden. Do you really think Willow was going to be part of this grandmaster scheme. Like it didn't make sense, and I thought it was going to hurt her in the long run, which of course it did. She ruins her own credibility. It's a stupid lie, and she might as well just own up to the fact that she voted the way she voted instead of trying to make it into this whole different thing, and it just blows up in her face, which I think it really did.
Yeah, I think if I could sum it up with what you just said, stupid lie. I really do think that like she should have just owned up to the fact that she orchestrated JP's eviction. She's not going to let a showman stop her own game. I think that would have been respectable. And like in this game, like your word is everything. So if they find out that you're lying, when it's really easy to find that out, there's people that know that you voted out JP, and they're going to throw you under the bus the first chance they get. And then Willow is also the person that actually voted to keep JP, and she's going to campaign and say like, no, I had nothing to do with this whole eviction, So I think that Cindy made a really bad judgment call, and I think because she's like really wanting to come into the game guns blazing, like she thinks that she constantly has to make moves, and I think this was just a move she did not have to make. Like she just needed to reel it back in for this vote and just own it.
I completely agree. Also, I think to kind of be a little bit of a devil's advocate, I think Cindy was probably screwed the moment Peely won HOH anyway. But I think the nail in her coffin, like what guaranteed her going up, was the fact that she made that lie. I think she could have at least had a little bit more wiggle room if she was just honest up front about what she did, and then go to Kevin and Peely and be like, listen, this is what's going on. This is why I voted out JP. So I'm telling you this, let's get on the same page and let's move forward, instead of just being like, okay, well, you caught me in this lie. Let me tell you why I really did it. And then this, and then they're just thinking, well, how do we know that this isn't just another lie? So I don't know. I think she was still going to be the target probably, but her doing that whole Willow vote thing, I think really just sealed the deal for her going up.
And to play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate, I'm going to place myself in Cindy's position with the information I know. And Cindy decided to reveal the Chop Shop alliance to Peely and Kevin anyway. So in order for that story to have credibility, you need to make sure that you have credibility prior to telling that story. And for her to say that she voted to keep JP, lost everything. She might as well keep that story to herself. Had she just owned that story of voting out JP, and then coming to the story about Chop Shop exists, like JP was a leg in the Chop Shop because she was close to Zach. Zach and Ashley are both with Bruno and Bobby. Like, I think that would have gave a lot more insight into potentially Peely having the target focus more so on them rather than on Cindy. Now, would Peely actually go through with it? Potentially not, but I think she would have definitely listened more to Cindy's like campaign for that rather than the defamation of character and then here's some more information. It just seems like Cindy was looking desperate at that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree with everything you just said.
Why, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Yeah, so do you think after Chop Shop got blown up to Pilar, do you think that they still made the right decision with her nominations? I know we already knew that Kevin knew about the Chop Shop beforehand, so it really was just news for Pilar. Do you think this was the right thing for her to do, is put up Cindy and Godfrey?
No, because it's more complex than that. Like, obviously, Zach, Ashley, Pilar, and Kevin are close. They have a friendship. They want to work together. And Pilar, like, going after the Chop Shop as opposed to Godfrey and Cindy, who are easily, like, the most expendable to the house, easily, like, the biggest targets that are in there. And for Pilar's game, it makes sense to nominate what the like people that are like so negatively impacting the house, because Pilar is a very like harmonious person, just easy to get along with, very, very sweet, definitely emotionally driven. And so if somebody's bringing bad energy or is outside of the alliance that you are in, then it makes sense for Pilar to go after Godfrey and Cindy. Like, it just makes sense for Pilar's game, in my opinion.
I agree. And, you know, I feel like we're kind of in the minority here, but I definitely think strategically it really is the best thing for her to nominate Cindy and Godfrey. Like, people online were kind of angry with her for like doing what Kevin and them want. But it's just kind of like, okay, so instead of her doing what Kevin and Ashley want, you just want her to do what Cindy and Godfrey want. So it's kind of like, and it's like these are her allies. Like, why? I understand that people want people to make moves against the power people, but like it, Zach and Ashley and Kevin, like they're on their side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so plus like these are the same people that are coming in saying we're gonna break up the couples, we're gonna break up the couples. So Pilar is part of that couple. They just sent one of her alliance mates home because JP was part of the Diaper Alliance, which is still the worst alliance name ever, and I hate that we have to like say it. I try to avoid saying it. So I don't know. I'm actually in Pilar's shoes. I think this is actually a really big move for her to put up Cindy and Godfrey.
You have to put yourself in Pilar's shoes. I mean, had Pilar, Ashley, or Kevin not won the HOH, two of those four would definitely be sitting on that block right now. They owe loyalty to absolutely nobody, and Cindy was a part of shifting the momentum for them to be the targets. So the fact that she was basically in a minority position, it makes sense for her to go after the people that shifted the pendulum way away from their control and try to make it back into their wheelhouse. So good for Pilar. I think she made a good call.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, I know we're in the minority on that, but you just got to put yourself in her shoes, man.
Mm-hmm.
Got to put herself in your shoes. Let's talk about Bobby and Bruno in that HOH competition because we kind of got a little bit more information from Bobby about why he did what he did. Apparently to him, it's a one and done deal, this vote. What did you think about Bruno and Bobby in this HOH?
I think it's smart. They basically put themselves where Zach and JP wanted to be, which is the middle. I think they're straddling the middle perfectly by throwing this HOH competition. I don't think that they needed to be the enforcers of the line of the sand. But Bobby winning, like actually trying to throw it and then getting it right. I don't know how I feel about him eliminating Cindy right off the bat, but again, he was trying to get in good with all sides of the house. Did he? I don't know. I don't know what I would have done in his position, but I guess he made the right call in eliminating the person that had a second chance to play. So who knows? What do you think?
I think Bruno played it perfectly, and I think Bobby played it awfully.
Okay.
I think if you're going to throw a challenge like that, don't just take a random guess because you're not sure. Like, wait till you know what the answer is, and then buzz, and then pick the different answer.
Mm-hmm.
Or just like don't do it and just wait for someone to eliminate. Like it's that simple. So I thought he tried to rush it too much and then he got put on the spotlight and he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Whereas Bruno just got it wrong. Am I right?
Yeah. He just.
So Bobby, I think what Bobby did is I think he decredited himself from either side because now they're mad at him. And the other side can't trust him because he was part of this big flip.
And then also Bobby's reaction, he was like, oh, I can't believe I got it right. Like, no, if you're throwing it, you're not supposed to give signs like that.
Right. Like, he might as well just said, dang it, I was trying to eliminate myself. Sorry, guys. And then he gets the next question wrong, like, immediately after. It's like, Bobby, I think, is the worst player in this game.
Yeah, obviously.
Am I mistaken? I would say so.
No, and he's a perfect number 2 for Bruno.
Yep. Exactly.
What did you think about Kevin throwing the competition? Because he also wanted to throw the HOH, and I thought he was in a really bad position to want to throw the HOH competition. What did you think about that decision?
Kevin is a enigma to me, man. I just don't know. I don't think that would have been the competition to throw. I think like someone he thought was close to just went home. He was blindsided. That's usually a good time to try and win HOH, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just so obsessed with being this character on the show. And it's like, I'm the guy I'm so charismatic. I don't need to win anything. And I'm just like, I don't know. I think, and I just don't know what to think about Kevin. And the stuff with him and Peely was just a little cringe-worthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's kind of a sleaze, in my opinion.
He's definitely a sleaze. But, like, even with Kevin and the Fortress Alliance, which he was obsessed with, his final 2 just got eliminated. Wouldn't you think he would be pissed and try to, like, win HOH and, like, basically make a move in honor of JP? No, he throws it. Like, he thinks he's in a great position. He wants to continue flying under the radar. and make it seem like he's not a competition threat. But I didn't think that was the week to do it. It was really dangerous because he got out with there's still like, what, 5 people left, and there's still a good chance that your side of the house, who's in the minority position of that vote, 5-4, I don't know. It just didn't make. It wasn't a good call, in my opinion. I think he should have made sure that Sarah and Brittany got eliminated at least before he threw it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think he acts before he thinks. I think that's what's going to be the downfall of Kevin's game.
Yeah.
Talk about Godfrey. We saw Godfrey trying to pull some stops on Peely to try and shake things up. What did you think about his overall approach to Peely? I mean, obviously it wasn't successful, but
right. Well, I just think it was funny for Pilar's reaction where she was like, "You knew that I was gonna nominate you? Like, what did you think?" Oh my gosh, it was so funny, Pilar's reaction. But I mean, Godfrey is completely accurate. You have to pull out the crayons, you have to pull out the markers whenever you're trying to demonstrate something for Pilar. I mean, even Kevin needed to pull out Candy to show what she should do for the week. And she's very good with visuals, mind you. She won that HOH competition for a reason. But I think that Godfrey's approach was perfectly fine. I mean, Pilar was just bombarded with a whole lot of information, and actually the information was all very true. Mm-hmm. It's just that the unfortunate factor is she was placed in a really bad position the previous vote, and like despite all this information of like would be, could be, should be, like y'all tried to mess with her game. Like, so even if she doesn't listen to it, I can't blame her for it, you know? But Godfrey brought up a lot of great points for Pilar to consider, but you know, Kevin just did his charismatic thing, and Pilar went back to doing Kevin's wishes, which I think also benefited Pilar. I don't know.
I agree. I like how Godfrey was just so frank with Pilar. Like, I know I'm going up because you know, you're close with Ashley, who's close with Zach, and like people are gonna target you guys, and
your like accent for Godfrey is so funny.
I mean, because I love that he just laid it all out there, and I agreed with him. Like, if you know you're going on the block, then why not just be like, listen, I know you're putting me up, but let me just tell you what the perception of the house, like what everyone's perception of you is, and that everyone knows this is what you're doing because of this and this and this. So why not try and do something this or shake it up a little bit just to show everybody it's like, you know what, I have my own mind. I'm playing my own game. I don't know, but I think he was going up regardless. But it was nice to just kind of at least make Pilar think about it.
Yeah.
And realize like, wow, like I am being controlled. I don't know if she realizes that or not, but I think Godfrey did the best job he could to try and get that through her head.
I agree. And I think Pilar is lucky in the sense that there's really 2 main targets and they're both on the block. It's Cindy and Godfrey. Like, Godfrey's the outcast of the original people. Cindy came back with the twist, and so like it makes sense for her to be a target. But like, I think Pilar's in really big trouble if the veto gets used this week. Like, that's when she'll have to essentially draw a line. She's technically good with Brittany and Sarah right now. She didn't really touch them. She's good with Bruno and Bobby. She didn't touch them. But like, if the veto gets used, I could see it being a really bad thing for Pilar to have to deal with.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Who do you think would go up if the veto is used?
See, like, I don't know if like the whole women factor would stay there, because like when the 5 girls like met up and they discovered that they were the last 5 girls remaining and like 3 girls got eliminated like the first 3 weeks, I think that kind of bonded them. But I could see Sarah potentially going up for being like, again, like against their alliance pretty hardcore. So I don't know. Maybe Pilar would nominate the person that she eliminated second in the HOH competition. It could be that simple.
Yeah, my guess is it's going to be one of those girls, maybe Sarah, Brittany. I don't think that conversation that the girls had means jack shit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the more alliances have kind of formed now, other than some agreement that they're not going to target girls, I don't think that's going to follow through at all. So,
well, Sarah and Brittany weren't even mentioned inside her hit list or whatever, like the final 4, like when she was pulling it up. It was Bobby and Willow, I believe. So maybe she could.
Willow.
Maybe Willow would be the person that Pilar would nominate, because
It'd be really interesting to see Willow go up. I don't know if she would leave. I guess it depends who she sat next to, whether it be Cindy or Godfrey.
Yeah.
Because if Willow is next to Godfrey, I think Willow would probably go home, which would be pretty crazy.
That'd be pretty hilarious if Bruno and Bobby like stuck it to Willow like that, but they would need that to happen. And I don't know if Bruno and Bobby would value Godfrey more than Willow, potentially, but I could see it happening.
Do you think Kevin's new final two is probably Pilar?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I don't think like Kevin evicting Pilar would just completely ruin Kevin as a character. He would know that he would be super unlikable outside the house. Like, you can't do that to somebody who is that like genuinely good. Like, Pilar is just like a really, you can't, like, if you take advantage of somebody like Pilar, it comes across very disgusting, very unlikable. So I think that he's at least gonna have her back.
Well, yeah. Plus, like, why eliminate someone that you totally destroy in a final two vote?
Mm-hmm.
So I think.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think Pilar could potentially come through going against Kevin, because Kevin could come across unlikable with the moves he makes.
I don't know, man. I think like if you think about this episode showed us a lot about how people feel about Pilar as a game player, and I think there's so many super fans in this house that they would just not want to give it to someone like Pilar. Plus, you also have to think that she's probably not going to be the most graceful talker in the live finale jury questioning, whereas Kevin, who's very charismatic, he's a big talker. I think it'd be pretty lopsided.
Maybe not, but I just love Pilar, and even the way she handled conversations with Godfrey, with Cindy, like, I think she made it seem like she was genuinely listening, genuinely interested. I don't know. I think that Pilar has a fantastic social game that we cannot like overlook. I think that could easily win the game if Kevin like betrays every single person in the house. Like, that'll be easy for Pilar to get the win in that way.
Well, we'll see. So much game left to be played. I just kind of have to see how everything shakes down. Let's see. What else do we have? So with Cindy and Godfrey on the block, I know that's two people we've been talking about a lot. Who would you rather see stay? I think it's pretty obvious who's probably gonna go if the noms stayed the same. But who are you rooting for to survive this week?
I got to root for my girl Cindy. I want her to stay. I mean, she made a couple bad calls this round, but it's because she's playing the game. I mean, come on, you have to admit that the game got so much more interesting with Cindy coming back into the house. Like, that she's the reason why the house was split last week. I think she could make a lot more. She could ruffle a lot more feathers, more than Godfrey could, because Godfrey's still in that stagnant, like, low man on the totem pole. So even though Godfrey can bring up a lot of good points and conversations, I think that the house would still vote him out. Whereas Cindy, I think she could make some change. And she worked with Bruno and Bobby once before. I could see her potentially doing that again, even though Bruno and Bobby are planning on cutting her this week. So I don't know. I would love for Cindy to stay and see what else she could rattle up, because she's here to play, and I like watching people like that. But if I was in the house, I would definitely want Cindy gone. Like, it's a very interesting dynamic being inside the house versus watching the game.
Yeah. I would hate for Godfrey to go home this week, because I find him so entertaining and just so interesting. But I agree with you. This game has just been on fire ever since Cindy got back, and it would suck to see her go so quickly. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. Anything else this episode you wanted to bring up?
Not really particularly. I'm really looking forward to the veto competition. But yeah, I think that was basically the nuts and bolts of what happened, aside from like Kevin throwing the competition to make sure that everybody outside of his alliance is on slop. So that was pretty
cool. Did you think that was funny that both Kevin and Godfrey were throwing the have not competition just to screw each other? Yeah,
that was so funny. And then poor Sarah and Brittany trying their like hardest.
Yeah, they're like, can I not be on slop for a week, everybody? Please.
I also hate that like Zach is appearing to get off scotch-free like from his HOH reign, but hopefully down the line we get to see somebody go against Zach. And I would have liked to see more reactions from Zach, because it seemed like he didn't even mention Jordan's name at all. He was more so just concerned about like, oh, the house split up, and like, I don't know. I would have liked to see some remorse. Like maybe if you could take responsibility of your horrible HOH reign just for a second because you put yourself there. But it is what it is, and even though it won't happen this week, it'll happen soon, and I can't wait for that to happen.
I agree. It'll be definitely an interesting week. Really excited to see what shapes up. Hoping Veto gets used and Pilar has to make another decision. Should be very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, you definitely don't want to miss out tomorrow night on the Veto episode. Want to see who wins the veto and what shakes down. You also do not want to miss our breakdown of the episode as well right after the episode airs. So definitely catch that out. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Jacob Harple, at Most Humble, at Sarcastivities. Like us on Facebook and follow us and subscribe us on YouTube.
That's correct. Yeah.
To get your basics, your Big Brother basics. So stay basic, and that's the bottom line.
Goodbye.
Bye.